how do you recommend others balance between like playing the game, but also just literally being authentically who you are and like understanding that you're going to become a match to who you're going to become a match to, and you can't force somebody to be in your life.
I think it's really about figuring out the feelings associated with most of the stuff. So
Yeah.
I think, for example, you know, I moved out here a year and a half ago, and then instantly you start to see the way people are dressed, for example, and if you look at it from a surface level, you start to get signals like, oh, I need to buy designer, I need to do this, I need to do that, because that's the surface level. And I think after spending more time around the city and starting to pick up on patterns, I realized, oh, what it really is that everybody in LA dresses like it's the first day of school every day. Right? None of that requires you to buy expensive clothes. That just requires you to what does the first day of school look like for you when you were a kid? It probably just meant, signifying effort. There was this, having a conversation with my therapist who's a female about this idea of like signaling wealth, and her saying, it's not about attracting a gold digger. It's about signaling to someone that you don't live in your mom's basement and that they don't have to take care of you financially, because more girls than you'll realize have had to take care of a guy financially. And many of them don't want that again. And without asking you bluntly how much you make, because that makes them look like a gold digger, you create signals about what that is. And oftentimes people think those signals could be a watch or a car or shoes. And then again, we live in, especially in this city, like people would rather look successful than be successful. People would rather look happy than be happy. There's a lot of outwardly appearances. So then you have to develop a thicker bullshit meter to kind of look through all of that. But understanding that what somebody is looking for is they're not chasing a success. A female may not be chasing a successful man. She's chasing safety and security around that. And, what she needs to also do is realize what is safety and security. Is safety and security being with an athlete who is one injury away from losing it all anyways? If he's a football player, their contracts aren't even guaranteed. I have some NFL friends who they get paid weekly and they can get cut weekly. And, so their job can be over at any moment and their paychecks can be over at any moment. So what is this idea of safety and security? And is it reduced to his height and his income? These are things that we're told, and we don't take the time to reflect on them and be like, actually, is somebody over 6 feet? Does that actually make me feel safer? Will that matter if we're surrounded by 8 ninjas or whatever danger people think that we're going to be in? Or is it going to be that guy that you realize may not even have the best job, but you see him put 110% into everything? He cooks a meal, 110%. He puts IKEA furniture together, it's 110%. Whatever he does, he gives it his all. So he's always going to give it his all. That's probably a better signal than his current income, than his current height or anything like that. But again, it just requires us to kind of go from that. And it's the same thing when it comes to, me realizing what I find attractive. I think very often what I learned is how much of that related back to my upbringing, me realizing I don't see people that look like me on television, me feeling like I was always an outcast, me dealing with a lot of racism. So then trying to overcompensate for that, and then I got into modeling for a bit. I didn't care about being a model, but the validation is what I was chasing because I felt like I didn't belong. But then going a level deeper, I realized, oh, what really just changed was the decision makers are new people who grew up at the same time as me. And, diversity and representation are naturally going to occur as new decision makers come. The same way Pusha T has an Arby's commercial, because the guy who's in charge of the Arby's commercials now grew up on Pusha T, and that's what it is. Yeah. And the powers that be that used to be these old disconnected, most likely white men who were trying to create a landscape for this country, they're gone. And a new generation is coming up. And there's going to be an even newer generation of younger folks that will be even more diverse and exploring more representation. Yeah. And that's just a natural occurrence.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, nobody got educated and changed their mind. Yeah. It's just the dinosaurs died out and the modern thinkers were there. And I think, so I started starting to recognize a lot of that and realizing that, okay, what I was taught, just because I didn't see myself on Saturday morning cartoons or on the Disney show, or there wasn't a kid in a boy band that looked like me, that doesn't mean that I'm the definition of ugly. And now I don't have to just constantly chase as much validation as possible. Again, I'm saying this with the awareness that I still make that mistake. You know, I have very clear, uh, I have done the work to clearly define what I think I would want in a partner. And the moment I come across somebody who's just ungodly beautiful to me, I'll just forget the whole list. And I'm being completely honest. This is me with awareness. And the only benefit to that is when it blows up in my face, which it always does, I don't feel sorry for myself. You know, it's no different than you eating completely healthy and then one day being like, all right, we're doing Taco Bell tonight. And then you eat Taco Bell and then, you know, you spend the next 3 hours on the toilet being like, I saw that coming. I knew that was like, I understand causality. And I think I've experienced the same thing when it comes to even dating, which is just like, oh, I want somebody who is currently doing the work. And I think the bare minimum of that for me is in therapy. Then you meet someone who's like, oh, I'm not in therapy, but it's like, oh, but your face is so symmetrical. So we'll just overlook it. And then you start to see the issues, you know, 2 weeks later that come from that because you guys are operating on different frequencies because you've done different levels of work and now you have conflict. And I'm at the level where I'm like, okay, I saw that coming.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not blind to that. I'm not going to feel sorry, but I'm working my way up to being like, no, I'm sorry. I respect you as you are, but I can already see that we're not going to be compatible. I'm not there yet, but I'm being honest about that.